I was forgotten for my friend's wedding, then blamed for not showing up. Now, I'm shut out of the group before my own wedding. What do I do? Original post. A friend, Greg, 28, in my circle of friends met Shannon, 28, about 5 years ago and they immediately hit it off. Everybody instantly fell in love with Shannon because she's friendly and really fun to hang out with. They were everybody's favorite couple and really made our hangouts much more fun. We all knew they were perfect for each other. They both made our crew that much better. The engagement was expected but much welcome news. Our friends' circle was buzzing about the inevitable wedding. Then the invitations went out. You know those save the date magnets that people send out? Well, it really sucked seeing them on everybody else's fridge when I visited friends knowing I didn't get one and wasn't invited. Feeling left out really sucks. But it gets worse. I completely understand how stressful wedding planning is and I believe nobody should feel that they have to invite people they don't want to their wedding. It's their day and their ceremony and they shouldn't have to have people there who they don't want there. I didn't cause a fuss or express to anyone that I was hurt, that I felt excluded from the wedding and by extension, excluded from the group. I didn't want to be looked on in an even worse way that I feel I was apparently being looked at. But one friend actually stood up for me. When their wedding came up in conversation and people talked about booking flights and rooms, destination wedding in New York City, eventually I was asked if I had booked yet. I said, me and my girlfriend, weren't invited. Nobody could believe it but I insisted that I wasn't upset because I know how situations like this can go. I didn't want to cause trouble because then the happy couple might resent me. Then I'd be the bad guy. I heard through other friends that my friend Tracy thought it was really messed up that I wasn't invited. She and I never spoke of how I wasn't invited to the wedding but she really felt the certain way about it. So a month before the destination wedding I got a text from Greg basically saying sorry for forgetting to send an invite but that they would love to have us come to the wedding. It was way too late at that point for me. I couldn't get away from my job and I didn't have a chance to put money aside for a year for an expensive NYC destination wedding like everyone else did. I didn't even get a save the date. Every flight and hotel, no rooms where everyone else was staying, obviously. Too late for that, was unaffordable for me. I texted him back that I couldn't make it. The wedding came and went and I felt bad about everything. I saw the Facebook pictures of my friends all having the time of their lives. It looked like a great wedding. There's even a picture of just the group of friends labeled the crew. I don't think I've ever felt so left out, honestly. It really made me feel worthless and unwanted. So naturally the typical thoughts surfaced. They don't like you. They think you're annoying. They think you're an asshole. If you can't identify the schmuck in a group of friends, that means you're it. They think you try way too hard to be nice and think you're a phony. Then as if it couldn't get any worse, Shannon messaged me on Facebook asking why I didn't RSVP and said they missed me at the wedding. RSVP? RSVP? Doesn't one have to be invited in order to RSVP? Everybody got a year to prepare between getting save the dates and actual wedding invitations. I got a text message a month before the wedding. Just as I feared, I'm being made out to be the bad guy and I even made a point to keep my feelings to myself and play it cool. But as usual I didn't say this to her because I know how I would end up looking. I actually apologized I don't even know, but I made a point to mention how I spoke with Greg about it. I also made sure to compliment the wedding pictures and say it looked like fun. I did everything I could in that conversation to make it easier on her and of course now I feel like a total schmuck. That was this past summer and I haven't seen them since. I feel like that's it for me in the group now. I see some of the friends in our group every now and then but everything feels different now. None of them even responded to my birthday party Facebook invite this month. I feel like things are being said behind the scenes and I feel completely out of the loop. It felt like a passive-aggressive message that maybe Greg and Shannon never actually liked me. My fiancée gets along great with Shannon and she's just confused. Seeing her confusion just makes my heart break even more because she's a sweetheart who's never offended anybody in her life. I wish I could break it to her that I'm just the guy in the group that Greg and Shannon thinks sucks, but I don't know how and I feel like a complete loser who deserves this. I'll always appreciate Tracy for sticking up for me. She may never know how awesome it feels hearing about how she told everybody it was messed up that I was left out. I haven't even spoken to her about how the whole thing made me feel, or anybody for that matter. Reddit, you are the first to hear about it, because I didn't want it to appear like I am making a stink and become even more disliked. This whole thing just fucking sucks. I feel like I don't have friends anymore. And to make it worse, soon I'll have a wedding of my own and I'm afraid I won't have any friends there, except for Tracy, of course. How am I supposed to handle who I invite so it doesn't seem like I'm leaving people out for petty revenge? How the hell do I navigate a toxic situation that I had no hand in creating? I still feel like I'm in the dark or could be overreacting. What the hell? TLDR, friends forgot or chose not to invite me to their wedding. After a friend stuck up for me, I was invited via text message, with little notice, had to decline, then asked why I didn't RSVP and that I was missed. Soon I'll have my own wedding to plan and don't feel like I have any friends to invite / don't know if I should invite certain people / don't know how to even approach the situation I didn't create. Relevant comments. Comment 1. Dude, you clearly tell them you were not respected like the others. Cut them out. This is about self-respect. Find new friends. Don't turn back. Oop. Thanks for reading and responding. Yeah, I've been thinking, I guess I can have my younger brother be the best man and just not have groomsmen, considering the circumstances. It's just fucked how I did everything I could to avoid looking like the bad guy, yet here we are. I'm the bad guy regardless of anything I did. Comment 2. That totally sucks. I would be hurt too. Do you think maybe Greg was in charge of sending invites to his friends and forgot? Or it got lost in the mail? I had an invite returned to me 1 month after I sent it, but thankfully I'd saved the date, and sent my invite super early so it ended up being fine, but if I hadn't, one of my cousins might have incorrectly thought she was excluded. It sounds like Shannon, at least, thought you were sent an invite if she was upset you didn't RSVP. You actually did RSVP by texting Greg back, but it sounds like she thought you'd been sent an RSVP response card. Poop. Yeah, it could just be a simple misunderstanding, but word seemed to get around early that I didn't get a save the date and even later didn't get an invite either. Tracy especially seemed to make sure everybody was aware that she wasn't happy about my exclusion. The other friends I spoke to didn't even suggest that it could have been a mistake, almost like they knew something I didn't but didn't feel comfortable saying it. Only one person even spoke up on my behalf. Update 1. I half took everyone's advice and brought it up with Tracy. She just confirmed that Shannon was full of shit when she asked me why she didn't get my RSVP and wanted to absolve herself of guilt. I'm not sure if they forgot or if I just wasn't invited yet, but Tracy said we'd talk about it more tonight when she gets out of work. Update 2. I spoke about it in depth with Tracy. It turns out Greg's best man, someone who was never in the gang, but grew up with Greg, always hated me and Greg thinks I'm annoying. Shannon later felt bad they chose not to invite me and pressured him to invite me over text knowing I wouldn't be able to make it. Also, it wasn't only Tracy who thought it was wrong that I didn't get an invite, and the chatter is what made Shannon ask me why I didn't RSVP, to make it seem like my invite was lost in the mail. It feels better knowing this because, like I said, they don't have to have people they don't want at their wedding. But knowing Greg doesn't like me fucking hurts because I always thought we were friends. Turns out he's the phony. Unfortunately, everybody else, except for Tracy and a few others, liked Greg more than me, so they kind of felt like they had to choose a side after Tracy, and a few others, it turns out, brought up why I didn't get invited. Lots of people are feeling guilty about this, apparently. They still felt like they had to choose a side for whatever reason. Probably because most of them went to high school with Greg. Oh well. That's life. Thanks for the advice about being more assertive. Those of you who were polite about it were very helpful. Thanks. Relevant comments. Comment 1. Yeah, you don't need those two-faced assholes in your life. Congratulations on finding out before they borrowed money from you. When they get divorced, you can reach out to Greg and tell him that he deserves it. Oop. It's funny you bring up borrowing money because they're the type who always want to split the check when they order the most expensive shit and always say, "I'll get you back." And, I don't trust Venmo. I'll just give you cash when I go to the ATM, and don't. On the plus side, I don't have to pay for part of their steak and lobster dinners anymore. Will OOP invite Greg, Shannon, and the best man to his wedding? No, I don't think it would be right to force anybody to choose sides, because that feels inappropriate to do to friends. I think everybody who stood up for me gets an invite. Greg can have his best man and be the cynical bastards they are together. Honestly, nobody really likes the best man all that much because he's always acted like an obnoxious asshole when he's been around us. They can have each other. When told to talk to Greg directly and get it from the source. Actually got confirmation, and an apology, from someone else. Not everybody was cool with it, but she's the only one who really has a spine and spoke up for me. Turns out they fucked up and caused all kinds of drama between people in the group. Some people wanted to keep me out of the loop so I wouldn't feel insulted. I kinda get it, but it just makes me appreciate Tracy more. Final comments from OOP. Comment 1. In this situation you aren't the bad guy from my perspective, and to be honest, a destination wedding is a dick move on your friend's part. The sheer inconvenience of one is like dick move supreme, especially the fact they chose NYC, WTF. Plus some people turn into assholes after marriage, and statistically speaking, your married male friend is going to be spending more time with his wife now than his friends. In some ways marriage is like high school, you go to it with your friends for a little while, then you start to drift away from another by barely communicating. Oop. Shannon is from up there and she wanted to be closer to her family. Yeah, turns out they didn't want me there and felt pressured once some of my friends realized. I guess it was easier to make the decision when it was just the two of them and they lost confidence in the choice when people found out. Comment 2. I feel it's best to let the consequences of this affect them, and just move on. Oop. Yeah. Hopefully they learn from this and aren't such assholes in the future. I don't see Greg ever changing from the cynical and negative guy he is, but you never know. This is a repost sub, I am not the oop. Well, that was a disaster, but believe it or not, this next one might be even worse. Am I the asshole for canceling the plans for Thanksgiving after my parents called my brother's baby their first grandchild? Original post. I, 32 female, have been with my wife Ava, 34 female, for 8 years now, but we've been married for 5. She was a single mom of 3 kids when we started dating. She had 2 daughters, now 10 and 12, and a son, now 16. I've watched these kids grow up, I've read the bedtime stories, done bath time, the first days of school, PTA meetings, all of it. I very much consider them to be my kids, and they've been calling me mom for almost 6 years now. My brother Ivan, 28 male, just had a baby girl with his fiancée Sarah, 27 female. I love my niece, and my kids adore their cousin. My kids have been the only grandchildren on my side of the family since Ava and I got together, and there's never been a moment where the kids and my wife were treated like they didn't belong. My brother is their uncle, my mom and dad are their nana and pop. The kids see my family as their family, and I always thought that my family felt the same way about them. The kids and I were over at my brother's house just hanging out, and my parents ended up dropping by with gifts for my niece. Ivan laughed when he saw the toys and told our mom and dad that they were going to end up spoiling her rotten. My mom said since my niece is their first grandchild, of course they have to spoil her. My kids were sitting in the living room with all of us, and my youngest daughter looked hurt when she realized what my mother said. My son and my 12 years old didn't fully react to it, but I could tell it bothered the both of them too. Sarah spoke up and said, "Oh, you mean first grandbaby, not first grandchild." My dad shook his head and replied that my niece was their first grandchild. I didn't want my kids to keep sitting there and listening to that, so I handed my son my keys and told him to wait in the car with his sisters. When they were gone, I asked my parents why the hell they'd say that my kids weren't their grandchildren, and my mom said they couldn't be their grandchildren because they weren't really my children. My wife and I were going to be hosting Thanksgiving at our house this year, but I told my parents that if they didn't view my kids as their family, then they could just host a meal at their own house with their real family while I spent the holiday with mine. I left before they could say anything else to me, and my wife and I have reiterated to the children that they will always be my kids and I will always be their other mom, regardless of our DNA. My brother is pissed at me now because he thinks I reacted too harshly, and that I should try to see where my parents are coming from. My mom texted saying that she and my dad love the kids, but they still aren't their grandchildren, and she hopes that we can come to understand that because she doesn't want this to ruin my niece's first Thanksgiving. I haven't replied back. I meant what I said, but I'm worried that maybe I'm reacting too harshly. Estimated time of arrival information. I adopted all 3 of the kids about 4 years ago, so they aren't just my parents' step-grandchildren. Even if I hadn't legally adopted them, they'd still be my kids in my eyes. Edit number 2. My wife's parents don't have a relationship with the kids. When my wife came out, they pretty much stopped speaking with her entirely. Their bio dad is not involved and neither is his family. He lost his rights to the children before Ava and I started dating. The 10-years-old has never met him, the 12-years-old doesn't remember him, and the 16-years-old wants nothing to do with him. My parents wanted the kids to call them Nana and Pop. I didn't make the kids start calling them that. Relevant comments. The worst part of it for me is that they said it in front of them. I'd still be upset knowing they thought it, but the look on my youngest daughter's face when she heard my mother say that just broke my heart. I tend to go mama bear whenever I even think someone has stepped out of line with the kids, so I was worried that maybe I was doing too much in my reaction. My brother still feels like I should talk it out with them, but I don't know that I could forgive it honestly. I've been out as a lesbian since I was a teenager, but I always sort of had this idea that I'd never find love and settle down. Then I met Ava and those kids and my whole point of view changed. 6 months into dating Ava, I realized I was keeping snacks in my bag for the kids, lol. I guess maybe my parents would have just gotten used to the idea of me never getting married or having a family, but they never made it seem like they weren't happy for me when I told them about Ava and our kids. They said they wanted the kids to call them Nana and Pop, but I haven't spoken to them since this whole thing happened, so I don't know if they still want the kids to call them that. The kids aren't exactly jumping at the bit to see them now though, so I doubt they'd call them those names anytime soon. Comment. You can put as much emphasis on DNA as you want to, but at the end of the day, those are my children. It doesn't matter that I didn't grow them myself, that they never came out of me, that they don't share my genetics. They call me their mom, and that's what I am to them. If I ever had gotten pregnant and made a baby myself, I know I'd love that kid the same way I do my other 3. Being a mom is more than making a child, it's being there for all the moments after. I'm fortunate enough to have been allowed those moments, and to have been given the title of mother. Yes, biology is a thing, and yes, I know DNA means a lot to some people, but it doesn't matter to me. It wasn't some happenstance of nature that allowed me to be their other mom. I am their other mom because I chose to be, and because they, and my wife of course, chose to let me. It's not a substitution, because I don't believe that there is one default or correct way of creating a family. Even gay penguins are out there adopting each other's eggs. If Mother Nature has the penguins doing it, I'd argue that my family structure fits the bill of naturally occurring just fine. OOP was voted not the asshole. Update post. Hi, I thought I'd just leave you all with an update here since it doesn't look as though things are going to change anytime soon. My wife and I talked with all 3 of the kids separately and asked them what they wanted to do for Thanksgiving, if they wanted my parents there, if they still wanted to see them. My son and oldest daughter have made it very clear that they are mostly upset at my parents for hurting their younger sister's feelings, and they felt that if my parents apologized to her and tried to make it up to her, then they'd be okay with seeing them still. My 10 years old took it the hardest out of the three. For her, they're the only grandparents she's ever known, and this whole thing really crushed her. My wife and I explained to her, and to all of the kids, that none of this was her fault, that she didn't cause it, and that we're both equally her moms and she is equally our kid no matter what DNA says. She told us that she didn't want to talk to my parents, but that she wanted me to make sure they knew that she wasn't mad at them, she was just hurt. I called my dad and told him how hurt my kids were by what was said by him and my mom, and that I would appreciate it if they apologized to the kids for being inconsiderate of their presence and their feelings. My dad said that he and my mother never intended to hurt the kids' feelings, but they can't change the fact that those aren't their grandchildren and that the kids shouldn't be so upset at the truth. I hung up on him. I know I can't make them view my kids as their grandchildren, but the fact that both of my parents are being so inconsiderate of the fact that they seriously upset my children just makes this whole thing even worse. I texted my brother and told him that I was sorry if he felt like he was being put in the middle of something, but as a parent my priority is my kids and I won't apologize for protecting them from what I think will hurt them further. I guess Sarah talked to him or something because he apologized to me and said he'd like for his daughter to have Thanksgiving with her aunts and her cousins. I did also thank Sarah separately for offering my parents an out, and trying to salvage the situation. She's a total sweetheart and I love her. Thanksgiving is going to be hosted at my house just without my parents there. It's unfortunate, but like I said, my kids are my priority and I refuse to have them sit at a table with people who can't even take a minute to show them some empathy or basic kindness. I didn't expect that post to take off the way it did, so I wasn't able to respond to all of you because there were just so many, but I really appreciated all of your feedback and suggestions. Edit, I saw this made it to r/all. A reminder that I am not OOP. Please read the borrow post rules and description if you need more information. Thanks for watching and diving into this wild family drama with me. If you love Reddit family drama, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next one.